各位觀眾大家好，歡迎收睇26分鐘見證實錄之與黨領對話。2024年卑詩省選嘅正式競選活動咧進行咗2個星期啦。咁各政黨咧陸續推出自己嘅政綱。上個星期我哋就了解咗卑詩保守黨黨領羅士德同卑詩綠黨黨領 Sonia Furstenau 對於今次省選嘅政見。咁喺今集嘅第一部分，我哋就去了解爭取連任嘅卑詩新民主黨黨領 David Eby 尹大衛對於目前本省面臨嘅一系列問題嘅睇法。Mr. Eby， 今日多謝你接受我哋嘅訪問啦。
Yeah, you bet. Thanks for having me. Nice to talk to you.
咁首先講下房屋方面啦，你嘅房屋政策包括增加25,000個新嘅房屋單位，咁中產階層就可以以市場60%嘅價格首次置業，其餘嘅40%貸款咧就由省級融資去承擔。咁你點樣覺得呢一個計劃咧對於改善目前嘅房屋問題有幫助啊？
That's a great question. There are a lot of people out there that are renting, and they don't see that they could ever afford a place to live, to buy a place in British Columbia. And that challenge is really making them question whether they have a place in our province. And so providing an avenue for people to actually own their own home, to actually get into the housing market is a really important thing to help grow our province and encourage people to put down roots here. This innovative financing model provides that opportunity for 25,000 people, but it's not like some of the other programs you might have seen from other governments where they have people competing in the same housing market. This program also builds new housing. It supports getting the new housing built. A lot of people who build homes right now put projects on hold because of high interest rates from the federal government, because of the cost of construction around supplies right now, and they're saying, well, I'm not going to build right now. This program helps them get the housing built, and it helps people get in to actually own. And it also, when people move in, it frees up rental housing for people that are looking for a place to rent. So it creates 25,000 homes to buy, but it also creates 25,000 homes to rent. And that is what we need to do. It's part of our overall plan to create more than 300,000 middle-income homes over the next 10 years. It's not the whole solution, but it's a key part of the housing strategy.
咁卑詩保守黨就提議俾居民咧，無論佢哋係租屋定係自住，減少最多1,500蚊嘅應稅收入。咁點解你認為你嘅政策比佢哋嘅稅務減免政策更加有效呢？
One of the things the Conservatives have talked about is getting out of the business of government being involved in delivering more affordable housing. So government shouldn't be involved. But we have massive population growth in this province. We set a record last year and the year before. And there are some cities that are doing a really good job of building the housing we need. And then there's a bunch of cities that aren't. And so making sure as a province that we're building as much housing as possible, that's the job of the provincial government. That helps with affordability. That puts people to work, whether they're painters or drywallers or carpenters or anybody that's in the construction trades that makes sure they're building the housing that we need to respond to that population growth. And John Rustad just announced the other day that he wants to reverse our plan to get rid of the red tape to build that housing. He wants extended processes with city halls and appeal bureaus and all these. We just need to build that affordable housing for people. And so it's the nature of what we're trying to do is try to get that top-down approach out of there to make sure that people who want to build homes that we need can actually build the homes that we need so that families can build a good life for themselves. We'll have our own affordability proposal to put forward to British Columbians around taxation, and I look forward to that. But that proposal isn't going to build a single home. It's not going to get a single person into a more affordable place. And in fact, by doing things like making it harder to build the homes that we need, the prices are only going to go up. Things are going to get so much worse.
卑詩新民主黨就承諾向加拿大接受培訓嘅醫療專業人員提供臨時執照，並且喺6個星期之內就會為國外某啲地區嘅接受培訓嘅專業人員咧提供相同嘅執照㗎。咁你估計呢一個方法喺第1年能夠為卑詩省帶嚟幾多額外嘅醫療保健專業人員呢？
Well, we've already had some success with shortening the timelines. One of the big challenges when people go to an emergency room or when they're looking for a family doctor is a shortage of the healthcare professionals we need. And we're leading Canada in recruiting new healthcare professionals, thousands of new nurses, more than 800 new family doctors in the last year alone. But we've got so much more to do. There's people out there still without a family doctor. There's emergency rooms that are still, you hear from the doctors, they're under huge strain trying to meet the demands. So we expect there are hundreds of, potentially thousands of additional healthcare professionals we can attract with these provisional licenses. But we also have to train up healthcare workers, give people a chance to want to be a doctor or a nurse, to go to school and to do that. Hundreds of new spaces for doctors and nurses at UBC, at other colleges across the province, a new medical school in Surrey, which will take its first class in September, training up those doctors to work in our communities so that we make sure we have those healthcare professionals in the province. John Rustad's plan to cut our healthcare system is not going to make things better. It's going to make things so much harder. He had the chance to build a new medical school and he said no to it. If he'd said yes, we wouldn't have found ourselves in this situation. And so we're building that medical school, we're getting it done for British Columbians.
咁亦都有人質疑啊，你哋對碳稅嘅立場上嘅轉變係出於政治動機，咁而唔係政策嘅驅動。對於呢啲嘅憂慮，你會點樣回應呢？
Well, here's the challenge with the carbon tax. For years in British Columbia, supported by British Columbians, reducing emissions while our economy was growing. The federal government got involved with exemptions for Atlantic Canada, dramatic increases for people. And people are facing huge affordability pressures right now. They're struggling to afford the basics. Global inflation and interest rates are taking a bite out of families' wallets. And so they're having to make really hard choices. And we know we have to take action on climate change. We know we have to protect our communities from wildfire, from flood, the smoky summers we've seen. We have to work on this. It's also a massive economic opportunity for us. All of the mines that are proposed for British Columbia, they're all related to minerals for making batteries, for decarbonizing, our hydrogen infrastructure, jobs across the province. This is a huge economic opportunity for us. And so I just don't want families to have to choose between our province seizing that economic opportunity, addressing climate change, protecting communities, and affordability, that they are able to make the rent, that they're able to fuel up their car, that they're able to look after their kids and shop for groceries. And that's what we were ending up in. So I'll never make families make that choice. Listen to British Columbians, and we still have to take climate action. It's not right that John Rustad wants to be the premier and thinks that climate change science is false, that it's a hoax, that it's a lie and it's made up, because he is passing on the economic opportunity of a generation for our future. And what is he going to say to the international investors coming to British Columbia? You're an idiot for investing in reducing carbon. Don't invest in our province. We need to embrace those investors. We need to embrace that opportunity and make sure that for our kids they have good quality jobs and they have a bright future.
咁對於聯邦政府啊，近期開始採取措施限制臨時勞工同埋收緊工作簽證啊，咁你有啲乜嘢嘅計劃去解決卑斯省嘅勞動力短缺問題啊？特別係一啲例如係農業啊，或者係建築業界呢啲高需求嘅行業咧。
Yeah, I think one of the benefits of having a growing province at a time when a lot of provinces are really struggling is that there are more opportunities for British Columbians in a difficult time. But the problem is the jobs that we're creating, the jobs that we see in the province, and there's almost 40,000 private sector jobs in the last 12 months we've created. One of the problems is people don't necessarily have the skills to take those jobs. They want to do the training, but they can't find that opportunity. So just a couple days ago, we did an announcement about skilled trades training in the province, 25,000 new spaces for people to get the skills for the jobs that are in demand right across the province right now around skilled trades training. But also in terms of our universities, spaces for engineering, for technology, for life sciences training, ensuring that there's opportunities for people to do training in the areas that they're interested in and where our economy is growing, where our strengths are, is a real focus of our government. We've got to keep working. This is one of the ways that we support people struggling with affordability, is to support them to get a job that pays more so that they can do better for their families. I met a guy named Gord. He worked in a warehouse moving around boxes for $20 an hour. He trained as a welder. Now he's getting $62 an hour. And he's able to see a path where he could buy a place, raise a family. We need to do that for more British Columbians.
你有啲咩計劃去提高學生嘅教育質素，並且支持我哋嘅學校同埋教育工作者啊？
Absolutely. So there's a couple pieces around education. So for the grade school system, making sure that our kids are learning in high quality schools, that the classrooms aren't too crowded, that the teachers have the resources. If there's a kid that's struggling, the teacher can give extra attention, or they have support through an educational assistant to do that. And I'm happy to talk about our university as well, but I'll focus on grade schools right now. The fact that John Rustad went on the radio and said the way we're going to deal with crowded schools and portables is we're going to increase our class sizes by at least 20%. It means that a bunch of kids in our province are going to be in more crowded classrooms with teachers struggling to get by. And the cuts that he made to our education system when he was in government meant that kids that needed more attention didn't get that attention. And the whole class struggled as a result. So we're making sure that we're supporting teachers with the resources they need in their classrooms, that we're building schools. So in just the city of, let's say the city of Surrey alone, more than 10,000 student spaces is the fastest growing city in the province of BC. This is a city where John Rustad for 4 years, last 4 years of his government, he didn't build a single new school. So good schools, resources in the schools to make sure that kids are successful, and opportunities after high school to go into trades training, to go to universities that are leading North America in the research that they do and the opportunities they present. It's a beautiful system in British Columbia, but we got to make sure it's responding to the growth pressures that we're seeing.
卑詩省今年就面臨90億元嘅赤字啊！你計劃點樣去平衡你哋所提出嘅多項支出承諾同埋財務責任啊？
Yeah, it's an important question. You know, a lot of people at home, they're seeing the pressure on their budgets. The cost of everything is going up. There's global inflation. Interest rates went up the fastest we've seen in a generation. And the Bank of Canada's policies to pressure businesses by increasing those interest rates are really hurting business, not just in British Columbia, but right across Canada, around the world right now. And so it's showing up in provincial budgets. People aren't spending as much money because they're renewing mortgages. They have less money, so less PST. Resource prices on the global market, a slowing global economy, they're at the lowest rate for almost every resource that British Columbia exports. And so these things have impacts on the provincial budget that show up in a deficit. So the question is right now, for any party, is now the time to cut healthcare, cut education, cut services that people depend on? Or is now the time that people need support more than ever? We've balanced 5 of 7 budgets. Balancing budgets is important. Fiscal responsibility is critical. But at the time when people need support, when our province is growing so quickly, when we need to have a strong healthcare and education system, to cut those services right now would result in huge impacts today, but also impacts on our economy going forward as people say, I can't live in British Columbia because they're not providing those essential services. I'm going to choose to go elsewhere.
咁如果當選，你為卑詩省民首先要做嘅3件事係乜嘢呢？
Well, the priorities that I have are the priorities of British Columbians. Address affordability, ensure a strong healthcare system for everybody, and make sure that we're addressing housing for people and growing our economy. So we're going to be focused on those things, and we're going to make sure we deliver for British Columbians.
Mr. Eby 今日再次多謝你接受我哋嘅專訪啊！
Thank you very much.
咁了解過卑詩新民主黨黨領尹大衛對於各競選議題嘅立場之後啊，咁面對即將到嚟嘅省選，卑詩省民最關心嘅問題又有邊一啲呢？咁對此，各大政黨嘅黨領啊，又將會點樣回應呢？我哋下一次翻嚟再睇。歡迎翻嚟26分鐘見證實錄之與黨領對話。3個政黨嘅黨領咧，對於自己嘅政見咧已經進行咗介紹啦。我哋喺對佢哋進行專訪之前啊，亦都收集咗一啲省民希望對於3位黨領提出嘅問題。咁佢哋又將會點樣回應選民關心嘅問題呢？我哋一齊睇睇。
What are you going to do to fix the broken healthcare system? You know, what measures can be taken? Are there not more doctors? A lot of people I know have no doctor. I live in Powell River. I have no doctor. I have no dentist. What is the problem?
Your issue about needing to access a family doctor is an issue faced by way too many British Columbians. That's why we made it a big priority to address this issue when I was sworn in. We entered into a new agreement with the family doctors that has resulted in 800 new family doctors coming on. 250,000 British Columbians in the last year have connected to a family doctor through the Health Connect registry. And for people who are looking for a family doctor, get on that registry because we're connecting so many people to family doctors. We believe that by the end of 2024 or the end of 2025, every single British Columbian that wants to will be connected to a family doctor. We're adding 160,000 spaces for people with family doctors in just the next 6 months. So for people who are on that registry, they're going to be able to connect to a family doctor. It's been a big priority. You're right. It's broken and it doesn't work if you can't get a family doctor. That's why we're putting a big priority on that.
You know, that's unfortunately a common story across British Columbia because so many people do not have family doctors and do not have access to the health care that should be available. In many ways, you wonder, you know, is British Columbia, you know, becoming a third world country on healthcare? And it's interesting, I was talking with the Dean of Medicine, or the Dean's Office, I should say, of Medicine at UBC just recently, and they said we could expand training of doctors by 100 tomorrow, but for whatever reason, David Eby and his government isn't even talking to them about doing this. So obviously there's more training that needs to be done. There's more work that needs to be done in terms of people coming into British Columbia and getting them into the system faster. We're going to be looking at how we train nurses as well to be able to have nurses being able to get into the system and be able to support the work that needs to be done. So there's a wide range of things that we can do to be able to help on our healthcare system, and there's the things that need to be done immediately. But the key there is moving from the model that we have today, which is failing, to these European models that are far more successful of universal healthcare, but the focus is being able to deliver services for a patient.
Well, I at length talked about the community health center model, the dogwood model, that would ensure that in your community you would have access to a doctor and a team. But I think we also have to realize that it's the professionals that we need to listen to. We have the doctors from the Surrey Memorial Hospital saying, we've presented solutions to the health authority and nobody's listening to the solutions we're bringing forward. I've heard this from doctors and nurses again and again. The NDP have been listening to too many of their bureaucrats. The Conservatives want to listen to the private sector and privatize healthcare. We have been listening to doctors, nurses, patients, and experts. And the way that we have a healthcare system that works is that primary care system that is there for everybody when they need it.
所以我想知道，如果佢哋會唔會有相關嘅補助啊，或者稅務優惠啊，俾到我哋呢啲中小型企業去支持我哋去繼續去發展。
Yes, and that's actually a very good question. In order for our economy to be able to be successful, we need to be able to see some continual growth. So for example, excluding real estate in the United States, these are numbers from a few years ago, they spend about $55,000 per worker in investing in their business, in driving innovation and investing equipment and expansions. In Europe, it's about $33,000 per worker. And in Canada, it's around $9,000 per worker. And so we need to do everything we can to make sure that people can invest in their businesses and have a reasonable expectation for return, but also, once again, from that perspective of how do we make sure it drives better wages in this province so you can have affordability. So that's a process that we will do within government, is to drive out those costs, create the environment where people have the confidence to be able to invest in this province, and making sure, of course, that we put the tools in place to support good wage growth in British Columbia.
We absolutely need to support and protect small and medium businesses. This is the economy that actually helps British Columbians thrive. It's where we have the greatest employment. It's where we have the greatest benefits to our local communities. We have a government that has given billions of dollars to the oil and gas industry and put more and more costs and pressures onto small and medium-sized businesses. So we need to shift this around and make sure that governments are supporting the people and the small business owners here, the medium-sized businesses, the manufacturers, the innovators, the entrepreneurs. This is what makes our province special. And if we're not supporting these businesses, we're leaving behind all of that potential that we want to have. Let's create the conditions where we are absolutely supporting and encouraging small and medium-sized businesses in BC.
Yes, so supporting small and medium business means supporting British Columbians. That's the majority of businesses in British Columbia. And we're going to continue to find ways to support them. So one of the ways recently was around hydro rebates and ICBC rebates for small and medium business that resulted in significant savings for them. We also got rid of, it's called the employer health tax for businesses with payrolls of under $1 million, a significant tax cut for small businesses. We're going to keep finding ways to support small businesses in this way. One of the things that we really want to do is help small and medium businesses grow into big businesses. So we have something called the Manufacturing Jobs Fund, where we're supporting businesses to buy equipment, to hire more people and expand the work that they're doing in the province, creating more opportunity for more people. So thank you for doing that work. Thank you for running a small business. You're the backbone of the provincial economy, and we'll keep finding ways to support you. John Rustad increased hydro rates by 80%, car insurance rates, MSP charges for businesses. He would do it again if he gets back into power. We'll keep supporting small businesses.
你上了台以后，你能不能让这个社会变得更好？能不能把毒品就是说去规范了管理，而不是说像Richmond们建立毒品注射屋的时候，根本就没有听取这个社区的意见。
We absolutely need to be focused on good regulation, good policy, ensuring that we're working with local communities. We're here at the Union of BC Municipalities. The communities come forward every year with solutions that will work in their communities. The job of the province is to work with and support those solutions. That's how we get the best outcomes. Too often, the province and the federal government are making decisions and forcing those decisions down onto communities. The communities know how to solve problems. That's what this whole conference is about, and that should be the guiding principle for the provincial government. How are we good partners? How are we working with? How are we supporting communities? It's what I came into politics because the government didn't listen to my community and wanted to put a contaminated landfill site above our drinking water. And we had to spend 4 years fighting back against that. And we finally succeeded. And it was in those 4 years that I realized there's something completely wrong about how government is making decisions. And when we make decisions on the ground, in community, when we solve the problems like we're solving homelessness in Duncan, we're solving the problems of feeding kids, those solutions really work. Let's work with communities.
Yes, I think there's always more we can do. I'm concerned about two things. One is about keeping people safe from the risk that illegal drugs present that can kill them so quickly. And so giving people a chance who are struggling with addiction to get off of drugs by opening more treatment beds, supporting them with rebuilding their lives is very important. The other piece around the safe consumption sites and other pieces like that, we know that we can support communities better. But what isn't going to make things better is to have a politician like John Rustad that says one thing to the Chinese community, we're going to shut down that site, and another thing to the broader community, we're not going to shut down the site. It means that we don't actually get to have an honest conversation about this really challenging issue. And so we'll be honest with you about what we can do and what we can't, how we think we can go at this. And it's not always going to be perfect, but our goal is a safe community for everyone and addressing that opportunity to get people who are struggling with addiction the treatment that they need.
Certainly, and that's going to be a big focus for us, obviously, is to deal with the addictions crisis. We have to deal with the policing. We have to deal with the fact that our ports do not have the controls that are needed. They don't have the policing that's needed. We have to make sure we invest in that. And quite frankly, it's a federal responsibility, and they have basically left the scene. And so we will do that. We'll implement that when we'll actually send the federal government the bill, because ports are their responsibility. But having said that, we have to make sure that we are safe here in British Columbia and we deal with these things. So there's lots that needs to be done to address the drug supply coming in. But the big thing is, the biggest drug dealer, quite frankly, in the province is BC government with their safe supply and decriminalization. These things need to come to an end. We need to stop building these drug dens, and we need to make sure that our communities are safe. So that'll be a big approach for the Conservative Party of British Columbia.
好啦，今集嘅節目時間呢又差唔多啦。下星期同樣時間，我哋會為大家播出2024 BC 省選論壇，敬請留意。如果觀眾對我哋今集嘅節目有啲乜嘢意見嘅話，係好歡迎大家以電郵嘅方式同我哋聯絡㗎。如果觀眾想上網重溫今集嘅節目，亦都可以上到去我哋嘅網站，點擊節目重溫一欄。再會。